You think your world is safe.
Londres, 2259. O universo vê-se ameaçado por um poderoso inimigo capaz de aniquilar a vida. Londres, mas no ano 2013, o elenco de Star Trek preocupa-se com o que pensa sobre o filme o simples espectador.
Did you see the movie?
Yes, of course.
Did you like it?
And action!
O 12º filme da saga, que começou na televisão, volta a ser assinado por J.J. Abrams. Já tinha realizado um Star Trek em 2009. Há agora novidades, passados que estão 5 anos.
Completely new. I think, well, first of all, we have a couple of new characters in the form of Benedict Cumberbatch's John Harrison and Alice Eve's Carol, Dr. Carol. I'm not going to say the surname. Spoiler. And I think that...
her father, Admiral Marcus.
Yeah. And of course the old Spock.
It's a bigger world. It's more visually stunning, I think, than the first movie. Even just the Enterprise set is bigger and more involved and intricate. The hallways are longer and they connect more, and the visual effects, the 3D, the IMAX.
Notably, the 3D and IMAX format, which is an overwhelming assault on the senses, is the first time that Star Trek has been presented in this format. Benedict Cumberbatch's villain is definitely a new interpretation. And I think that Spock's journey in this has also been made, I suppose, more feeling. He's very feeling in this film.
I think that JJ and his team of writers had more freedom to incorporate their ideas and their take on how they wanted this film to be shot, how they wanted the story to be told, and they were able to go as dark as they wanted, as deep as they wanted, as scary, as dramatic, and I feel like that's what worked the best, because sequels are meant to supersede their first installment.
Oh, we gotta jump! What? Jump! Oh, God!
Emergency power at 15% and dropping.
The size of the set changed. They built a set that was much more integrated so that you could walk from one environment to the other. You could run from the bridge to the med bay or to the transporter room or to a kind of section of engineering, which was great because it meant that you could do quite long takes. The only difference really was that at the end of each take, we had to do what's called a 3D pass, because the film was converted into 3D. It wasn't shot in 3D, because JJ wouldn't have had the freedom he likes to have with a 3D camera. It's a bit restricting. So our first AD, Tommy Gormley, would shout, 3D! And then all the principals would have to leave, and then they'd shoot the whole scene again, but with just the background.
What I found different on set was that we had a bigger budget this time, so there were more sets that were created for us, and that was fun, because it's one thing is to imagine everything and work with just a green screen. The other thing is to actually see things materialize, and you're interacting with your environment. I feel like as actors we just have a different feel to that.
I think there's more of everything. There's more action, there's more stakes, there's more drama, there's more heart, and there's more humour.
Scotty, it's Kirk.
Oh, well now. If isn't Captain James Tiberius Perfect here. Yeah, I called him Perfect here. Yeah.
Well, where are you?
In the first film, was very much about introducing these characters, and now, in this film, we really let them run, and it's a brilliant adventure.
Let me explain what's happening here. You are a criminal. I watched you murder innocent men and women. I was authorized to end you.
The new villain, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, is this, almost new vision of Hannibal Lecter. He's cold and calculating, but what I think is great about what Benedict brings to it is what could be a very two-dimensional character ends up being this very kind of emotional being as well behind that kind of cool exterior, one that you're able to empathize with even, and he's that kind of dark shadow that Kirk almost falls into this kind of trance when John Harrison manipulates him, and that's the great power of our villain, is that he's a real psychological warrior. He knows how to play the weaknesses of this crew against one another, and nearly breaks them apart.
If you want to know why I did what I did, go and take a look.
Give me one reason why I should listen to you.
I play John Harrison, and he's sort of, I guess you describe him as the bad guy, but he's quite a complex character. He's a homegrown terrorist. And like a lot of terrorists, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And I think he comes from, I don't know, a moral core and a centre and a drive and a need to do what he does, which is pretty honourable. And almost like a shadow self of Kirk, there's a very strong relationship to Kirk's responsibility as captain for his crew on the Enterprise and what Harrison is about, what his loyalties are. So you should perversely kind of empathise with this one-man weapon of mass destruction who's both skilled at close-hand combat and weaponry as well as psychological warfare.
Captain Kirk. Science Officer Wallace. I've been assigned to the Enterprise by Admiral Marcus. These are my transfer orders.
You requested an additional science officer, Captain? I wish I had.
I play Dr. Carol Marcus in Star Trek Into Darkness, and she's has a PhD in advanced physics, and she's a weapons specialist.
It's a very good place to see Uhura here in this movie since the last time you saw her. She had just graduated from the academy in the first movie. She had just been asked by accident to become the xenolinguist on the Enterprise. And also she was dating her teacher. And now, you know, she's been working with the crew for a while. She's a little older. She likes her captain, and her relationship with Spock is in a different place.
Wait, are you guys fighting?
I'd rather not talk about it,
Oh my
sir.
God, what is that even like? Ears burning?
Além da Escuridão, coloca o elenco feminino mais além no desenrolar da história, para mostrar que a ficção científica é um género e Star Trek é para os dois.
I suppose I thought it was more for men audiences, and then I sort of got really into it, and I realised it's not at all. It's a very egalitarian, democratic presentation of the future. I suppose just because men like details and women like babies, that maybe it's thought of as male, but it's actually quite interesting, and I think it's quite female too.
I think so. It's so, if only I can sit down with all the females in the world and go, just because you're a girl doesn't mean you just have to like flowers and romantic comedies. Like, challenge yourself, you know? Go out there and watch an action movie that has heart. You will cry, you will be compelled, but you'll be visually seduced by this amazing filmmaker, because JJ gives you a great film experience. And I would hate for audiences of any type to cheat themselves out of experiencing that.
A chegada de Star Trek aos Estados Unidos ficou ligeiramente abaixo das expectativas no que respeita a receitas de bilheteira. O filme rendeu em 3 semanas de exibição pouco mais de 139 milhões de euros. Estima-se que os custos de produção, juntamente com os de divulgação, atinjam os 250 milhões. Com estes números na mesa, fará ainda sentido a aposta no franchise?
There's a reason why Star Trek's nearly 50 years old. It's because it embodies a certain...
It was invented in 1960.
That's really, it's a time thing. No, because it embodies certain kind of preoccupations that we have as human beings, which is exploration and peace. And, you know, I know we get into a lot of scrapes with people, but Star Trek is about cooperation and about people, particularly humans, living together. And not just together, but with other species. And there are always agitators out there who kind of want to mess it up, but that's life. And it offers this future where we're still around, for one thing, but we're also doing pretty well, and that's very hopeful. We need that in this day and age, you know. The times are as bleak as they ever were now, you know, and with the environmental issues, with the threat of terrorism, with the threat to ourselves from ourselves, the idea that we might actually not destroy ourselves is quite inviting.
For better or for worse, sequels have become a significant part of the engine of the entertainment industry in the United States, and I don't necessarily see that changing anytime soon. They make a lot of money, they cost a lot of money, but then they make a lot of money, so and they tend to be more internationally appealing. So I think big studio franchises are definitely here to stay. But I also think that there's a new form of storytelling and filmmaking that's emerging in the face of such monolithic movies and corporations. I think there is a resurgence of smaller independent filmmaking, and I support that as a producer and as an actor, and hopefully down the line as a director as well.
The franchise aspect, I just thought, okay, like I try and do, each job is a new job, and the challenges are always different. And what I try and do is just go to the direct point of contact or reason that I'm there, and that's JJ.
Especially a franchise like Star Trek that represented such a strong message of peace when it came out. And I feel like that's the reason why it has such a strong following in the world. It's because this show came out at a time where the thought of having a Russian man, an African-American woman, and a Japanese man working together was highly unlikely.
Bringing American films or Hollywood films to an international audience, they like the familiarity of the franchise. It's a universe that's being presented to them. It's like the novelization of Dickens was put in magazines every week. It's a familiar place to go back to.
Todos os anos, várias cidades, sobretudo norte-americanas, acolhem os grandes encontros dos chamados Trekkies. As convenções são frequentadas pelos verdadeiros seguidores da saga criada por Gene Roddenberry, e há quem gaste fortunas para adquirir memorabilia da série e dos filmes.
Do you consider yourself a Trekkie?
Now I do, because I have such a respect and admiration for Gene Roddenberry through the process of playing one of his most iconic characters. But growing up, I was much more interested in Star Wars, because that's the generation I come from. So I wasn't really interested or aware of the depth of the Star Trek world until the first movie, and then I cultivated a real appreciation for it.
Do you, Chris?
Yeah, it's similar to Zach. I think what I really enjoy about is the world that he created is this hopefulness that he has of humanity, and especially in a time now, and it seems like we're always in a time of violence and divisiveness, and it's very easy to get jaded, but I think Roddenberry had this real wonderful, almost earnest hope that mankind could work together and do wonderful things, and that's a great thing for us to, I think, remind ourselves of.
To call yourself a Trekkie, you have to fulfill a certain criteria, which is pretty strict. The Trekkies know a lot, you know. They know episode numbers, they know characters and actors, and I'm a Star Trek fan, but you have to earn the badge of Trekkie, I think. I love Star Trek very much, but I don't know if I've graduated to Trekkie yet, because that's like a degree, isn't it?
But they actually go around wearing the costumes.
Yeah, and they've earned that name. I wouldn't want to take that away from them.
Are you afraid what they think about you and your characters and your performance?
No, I mean, for me, I guess, being a fan of the original show, I put enough pressure on myself to do the character justice, to even bother thinking about what other people think. I mean, it just lies beyond my area of concern. Obviously, I hope that it's, well received. But to me, it's all about being in the moment and being true and honest to those characters and the story.
Also, they're not a kind of scary gang. They embody a lot of the Star Trek sort of ethos, which is understanding and cooperation, and they're up for it. They want to see these characters again. They're beloved characters. There are a small vocal minority who just love the first season or the first the first series, and that's fine. And there are some people who love the Next Generation, and there are some people who love Voyager. All those people are entitled to those beliefs, just so long as they don't say them to me.
Com J.J. Abrams agora dedicado à realização da saga Star Wars, concorrente em muitas formas de Star Trek, persiste a dúvida sobre o futuro deste franchise. Suportaria a indústria de Hollywood e o público mais um filme com a atual equipa?
I hope so. Remember, when we did the first one, we weren't expecting to come back for a second one, and it was so successful, thank God, that we came back. If this one hits it big as well, then why not? Why not come back for a third one?